Okay, so ready to go deep. Today, we're going to tackle the future of data governance and stewardship. And I know with your background in relational databases, this is right up your alley.
Absolutely. It's such a dynamic field, and staying ahead of the curve is, well, critical for anybody who works with data.
Yeah, no doubt about it. We've got a ton of cool sources to dig into, and our mission here is to really pull out those golden nuggets, the insights that can help, keep you ahead of the game.
Exactly. We're going to be looking at the big trends, the rising role of AI and machine learning, and what it all means for the future of data management for businesses, enterprises.
Perfect. So let's jump right in. What are some of the biggest trends that are shaping data governance and stewardship right now?
Well, one of the biggest shifts, I think, is how we see data itself. It's not just a byproduct of business operations anymore.
Right.
Companies are realizing that data is a super valuable asset, kind of like their physical assets or financial capital.
Wow, that's a huge change in thinking. What's driving that?
I think it's a bunch of factors. The volume of data that we're creating has just exploded, and companies are starting to see how they can use this data to get insights, to, drive innovation, and to get a competitive edge.
It's like they suddenly realize, hey, we've been sitting on a gold mine this whole time.
Exactly. And with that realization, you need more robust, more strategic ways of managing all that data. And that's where data governance and stewardship really come in.
So it's not just about having the data, it's about managing it the right way.
You got it. Data governance gives you the framework, the policies, the processes you need to ensure your data is high quality, consistent, secure, and being used ethically. Data stewardship is more about the people, the roles, the folks who are actually making sure those standards are met and maintained.
Okay, that makes sense. So we have this increasingly valuable data, and we have these more formal ways of managing it. What else is big in data governance and stewardship right now?
One trend that's really taking off is the formalization of those data steward roles. More and more organizations are creating specific data steward positions because they need people with the skills and expertise to handle data management.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, especially with, data environments becoming more and more complex.
Absolutely. Data stewards are becoming crucial. They're the ones who are making sure the data is good, they're resolving inconsistencies, and they're bridging the gap between the business needs and what IT can do.
So they're like the guardians of the data, making sure it's used responsibly and effectively.
You got it. They're vital to making sure data is treated as the valuable asset it is and that it helps the organization succeed.
That's great. Now, we've talked about data becoming more valuable and the need for these formal data management roles. Anything else that jumps out as a major trend?
Yeah, another big one is the increasing emphasis on business and IT working together. Data governance isn't just an IT problem anymore. Organizations are realizing they need business stakeholders to be actively involved in the entire data lifecycle.
Yeah, makes sense. I mean, the business units are the ones who are using the data to make decisions and get results, right?
Exactly. They're the ones who really understand what the data means in their specific areas. By working with IT, they can make sure that the data governance policies and processes actually meet their needs and their objectives.
So it's about breaking down those silos and having a more integrated approach to data management.
You got it. It's a more holistic view of data governance, where business and IT work hand in hand to make sure the data is high quality, accessible, and secure.
This is all super interesting. Data is definitely becoming the lifeblood of modern businesses. But with all this data exploding and everything getting more and more complex, how can companies actually keep up?
Well, that's where AI and machine learning are starting to really shake things up in data governance. AI and machine learning, they're really changing the game for data governance. They offer these powerful tools for automating tasks, improving data quality, and getting, even deeper insights from the data.
It's exciting, but also a little intimidating, to be honest. Can you give me some examples of how AI and machine learning are actually being used in data governance, like in the real world?
Sure. One big area is data quality management. Traditionally, ensuring data quality has been like a really manual process, tons of checking and cleaning.
Oh, I bet, especially with the huge amount of data companies have to deal with these days.
Right. But now AI algorithms can automate a lot of those tasks. They can, scan huge data sets, find those inconsistencies and errors, and even suggest how to fix them. That frees up the data stewards so they can focus on more, strategic stuff.
It's like having a whole army of little data quality robots working 24/7.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. AI is also being used to improve metadata management. Remember, we talked about metadata being like the instruction manual for your data? Well, AI can help automate things like tagging data, creating data dictionaries, and even suggesting links between different data elements.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So it's not just making the data itself better, it's making it easier to understand and use, too.
Exactly. AI and machine learning are helping us get the most out of data, making it more accessible and, easier to understand.
Now, we've talked a lot about the good stuff,
Mm.
but are there any, downsides to using AI and machine learning for data governance? Are there challenges?
Oh, there are definitely some things to keep in mind. One big challenge is making sure those AI algorithms are trained on good, unbiased data.
Right.
If the training data is bad, the algorithms can actually perpetuate and even amplify those biases, and that can lead to, inaccurate or unfair outcomes.
That's a really important point. It shows how crucial human oversight is, even with all this AI.
Absolutely. You can't just let the machines run wild. We need humans in the loop to set the goals, to define the rules, and to keep an eye on things. Make sure the AI is doing what it's supposed to do.
So it's all about finding that right balance between human expertise and AI power.
Exactly. Another challenge is making sure everyone in the organization is data literate. As AI and machine learning become more common in data governance, people need to understand, at least basically, how these technologies work and what they can do.
Otherwise, it's like trying to drive a car without knowing how the engine works.
Exactly. Data literacy is super important for everybody now. Business users, data scientists, everybody. It's how we make sure AI is used ethically and effectively.
So we've explored these trends in data governance, the potential of AI and machine learning, and some of the challenges. What does all of this mean for the future of data management for businesses?
I think we're about to see a massive shift in how data is managed and used. One big trend, I think, is going to be a move towards more proactive data governance. Instead of just reacting to data problems after they pop up, organizations are going to try to prevent those problems in the first place.
So moving from reactive to preventative data management.
Yeah, that's it. It's about seeing potential data risks and putting things in place to lessen those risks before they can hurt the business. That means using AI and machine learning to monitor data quality in real time, find those anomalies and alert the data stewards when something looks off.
Sounds super powerful. But what about the human side? What happens to the data stewards in this future of proactive data governance?
Data stewards are still going to be super important, but their focus is going to shift away from all those manual tasks and more towards strategy. They'll need to really understand AI and machine learning and how to use them.
It sounds like data stewards are going to need even more skills in the future.
Absolutely. They'll need to interpret those insights the AI algorithms spit out, communicate them to the business people, and recommend what to do next.
So it's not just technical skills, it's communication and collaboration too.
Exactly. Data stewards will be like the bridge between the technical world of AI and the business world of decision making. They'll need to be able to speak both languages.
This is fascinating. It seems like the future of data management is all about, hitting that sweet spot between human expertise and AI power.
I totally agree. It's a really exciting time to be working in data governance and stewardship. We're on the verge of really using data to drive innovation and, create value for businesses. But to make it work, organizations have to embrace these new technologies, they have to build data literacy, and they have to give their data stewards the power to lead the way.
Okay, so we've talked about all these trends and the role of AI, but it all feels a little, theoretical. In the real world, how do companies actually implement all this and, make data governance work for them?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's one thing to get the idea of data governance, but it's another thing to actually do it, put it into practice.
Right.
And it can be a little overwhelming, especially if you're just getting started with data governance.
So where do you even begin? Is there a roadmap, some kind of blueprint?
There are. Luckily, there are some well-established data governance frameworks out there that companies can use and adapt to their needs. So they give you a structured way to implement data governance, outlining, the principles, the processes, the roles.
That's good to know. Can you give me an example of one of those frameworks?
Sure. One that's really popular is DMBOK. It stands for Data Management Association, Data Management Body of Knowledge. Think of it like a giant guide to, all things data management.
Like a data management encyclopedia.
Yeah, exactly. It covers everything. Data modeling, architecture, data quality, security, governance, you name it. And within the framework, it gives you specific guidance for setting up a data governance program, defining policies, figuring out data ownership, and setting up processes for managing data quality.
Sounds like a great place to start. But you mentioned that companies need to, like, tailor these frameworks to their own needs. What does that actually look like?
Well, it's important to remember there's no one-size-fits-all solution for data governance.
Right.
What works for one company might not work for another, right? How you implement it depends on, your industry, your size, how mature your data practices are, even the company culture.
So you can't just copy and paste a framework from another company.
Nope, not at all. You really have to think about your specific situation and adjust the framework accordingly. For example, a company in a highly regulated industry like healthcare or finance, they're going to have to focus on data privacy and security more than, say, a company in a less regulated industry.
Yeah, that makes sense. So let's say a company's chosen a framework and adapted it.
Yeah.
What are some of the practical steps they need to take to, actually put that framework into action?
One of the first things you do is set up a data governance council, or sometimes it's called a committee. It's basically a group of people from different parts of the company who are responsible for overseeing the data governance program.
So like a steering committee, but for data.
Exactly. It usually includes people from different business units, IT, legal, compliance, so you get all those different perspectives.
And what do they do?
They're the ones who set the big picture direction for data governance, approve data policies, decide who owns what data, and make sure the program is aligned with the company's overall goals.
Sounds like a pretty big job.
It is. They're the champions for data governance inside the organization. They're the ones who drive adoption and make sure it's a success.
Okay, so we have the framework. We have this data governance council. What else? What are some other key steps?
Another really important one is to create and document clear data policies. These policies lay out how data is going to be handled, accessed, used, and protected, across the organization.
So it's about setting clear expectations for how everyone interacts with data.
Yeah, exactly. Those data policies might cover stuff like data privacy, security, data retention, data quality standards, even ethical things.
Having all that written down must be super helpful for consistency and, holding people accountable.
Absolutely. It gives you a framework for resolving any disputes and for making decisions about the data.
But policies are just, words on a page if nobody follows them. How do companies make sure people actually stick to the rules?
Well, that's where processes and procedures come in. You have to lay out clear steps for managing the data throughout its entire life cycle, from when it's created to, when it's archived. This might include things like data entry procedures, data validation checks, access control, data backup, and recovery, stuff like that.
So you can't just say, don't share sensitive data. You have to actually define what that means and how to prevent it.
Right. Those procedures need to be written down clearly, and everyone who works with data needs to know about them. And then you need ways to check if people are following the rules and, what to do if they're not.
Now, we talked earlier about assigning data ownership. Can you talk a little more about why that's so important for, making data governance actually work?
Sure. Without clear ownership, it's easy for data to get lost or, neglected. You need somebody who's ultimately responsible for the quality of the data, the accuracy, how complete it is. And this data owner, they're responsible for making sure the data is used the right way, that it follows all the policies, and that it meets the needs of the business.
Feels like a big responsibility.
It is, but it's absolutely essential if you want to treat data like a valuable asset and manage it effectively. The data owner is like a guardian, advocating for its proper use and making sure it stays trustworthy.
Wow, we've covered a lot of ground today. It seems like there's a lot involved in implementing data governance. Frameworks, councils, policies, processes, ownership. It's a lot. What's the main takeaway for our listeners, especially since they're already familiar with relational databases?
I'd say the main takeaway is that data governance is not just an IT thing. It's something that's crucial for the entire business. And it's not a one-and-done project. It's an ongoing process, always trying to improve. By using a structured approach, getting business and IT to work together, and using technology in smart ways, organizations can really unlock the power of their data and get a real competitive edge.
That's great. This has been a super insightful deep dive into data governance and stewardship. If you enjoyed this episode, please like, share, and subscribe to The Deep Dive for more deep dives, more explorations into the world of information. Until next time, happy data exploring.